On a sweltering summer night in 1921, a violent thunderstorm sweeps over the remote peaks of the Catskill Mountains. By morning, the storm has passed, but an entire squatter hamlet nestled between the slopes is gone. 75 people have simply vanished. The scene left behind baffles the state troopers. Several of the shanties have collapsed into the earth, and the disordered ground is covered in human debris and blood. Yet, despite the massive scale of the carnage, investigators find absolutely no bodies and no footprints leading away into the woods. An entire community has been eradicated in a single night without leaving a single forensic trace of an attacker. The void of evidence quickly fills with rumors. The police attribute the destruction to an incredibly localized, albeit highly destructive, lightning strike. The surviving locals, however, claim a centuries-old demon has descended from the peaks. Into this frenzy steps a private investigator, a man whose career is built on applying scientific rigor to the grotesque and the terrible. He ignores the supernatural whispers and the reporters chasing ghost stories. To understand what slaughtered 75 people, he must map the physical reality of the mountain itself. This topographical map isolates the geographical center of the panic. The historical attacks all radiate outward from a single point at the summit of Tempest Mountain, the abandoned 17th century Martens mansion. When we plot the exact dates of the disappearances against the region's barometric pressure records, a strict pattern emerges. The violence aligns perfectly with the arrival of severe summer thunderstorms. Looking closer at the terrain itself reveals a physical anomaly. The earth surrounding the estate is heavily scarred by snake-like mounds and hummocks, stretching out toward the valleys below. The threat operates within strict geographic boundaries, bound by terrain and triggered by specific weather events. Those pathways lead back to the original inhabitants of the estate, the Martens family, wealthy Dutch merchants who built their home in total isolation, aggressively rejecting outside civilization. In 1762, a young family member named Jan Martens was brutally murdered. The locals suspected his own relatives of crushing his skull, leading to the complete social and economic ostracization of the surviving family members. Cut off from the world, the family turned inward. Historical records note that as their isolation deepened, a distinct genetic trait became prominent across the bloodline, heterochromia, giving them one blue eye and one brown eye. The Martens line became a closed circle, their distinct genetic markers evidence of a family retreating further into themselves with each passing generation. To test his theory about the estate's connection to the modern attacks, our investigator begins digging into Jan Martens's grave as another thunderstorm brews overhead. He digs too deep. The soil completely collapses beneath his feet, plunging him straight down into a lightless, suffocating void beneath the graveyard. Landing in a narrow, horizontal tunnel, he realizes the strange, snake-like mounds visible on the surface are actually the roof of a vast, miles-long honeycomb of subterranean burrows. The threat wasn't hiding in the dense forest. It had been stalking its victims from directly under their feet, using the rain and thunder to conceal the collapsing earth. He returns to the mansion's crumbling stone cellar to set a trap. He positions himself in the dark, his weapon drawn, watching a gaping hole at the base of the old chimney as a storm rolls in. A deafening thunderbolt strikes, and the hole erupts. A massive, seething flood of shadowy bodies violently pours out of the earth, spreading into the forest. Thousands of deformed, hairy, dwarf-like apes make up this surging mass. So desperate for food, they eagerly cannibalize their own stragglers. The investigator has stumbled into a subterranean hive. An entire species has bred in the darkness, surfacing only when the thunder masks their feeding frenzy. Under the storm's cover, he fires his pistol into the dark, dropping one of the creatures. He approaches the lifeless body to finally examine the threat up close. The corpse is in a state of total biological degeneration. It is covered in matted fur, possessing sharp yellow fangs and the musculature of a beast. But turning the creature's head to the light, he sees the inherited mark of the family tree, one blue eye and one brown eye. The Martens family never left the mountain. Shunned by society and terrified of the storms, they retreated into the earth, mutating over generations of isolated breeding and cannibalism into monsters,